as you're thinking about selling your structured settlement payments. Perhaps you've seen one of those amusing but annoying videos on television, or seen an equally amusing or annoying ad on the internet. Either way, you might have a particular situation in which you're thinking about selling your structured settlement. You might very well have a valid reason. And I'm not against people selling their structured settlements for the right reasons. I've been in the structured settlement business for over 23 years and financial services for over 30. There are some very valid reasons for people to sell their structured settlements. But what's very, very important, and the purpose of this very brief video, is that you just simply can't let your guard down. You can't simply 100% trust the first person that you're talking to, because you have no idea whether that person is qualified to give you structured settlement advice. Now, I'm going to tell you a brief story here. I received a phone call from a woman from Florida. And this individual had called me and said, is there any way that we could sue this big company, one of the companies that you see on TV? She had sold some payments to them in the past, and she claims that she told these folks to only sell a portion of her income stream, or sell her income stream, but not touch her lump sum payments. And when push came to shove, she alleges, at least to me, she alleges to me on the phone, that it turns out that all the payments were sold. And I said, well, this doesn't make any sense. You're from Florida. There's a Structured Settlement Protection Act. And where there's a Structured Settlement Protection Act, there must be a court approval of the so-called structured settlement factoring transaction. You cannot sell your structured settlement payment rights without the court approval. If you did it without court approval, let's say somebody did do that, then what would end up happening is the purchaser would get tagged with a 40% excise tax. It's in the United States Internal Revenue Code. So a purchaser of structured settlements is highly unlikely to want to purchase structured settlements without court approval. Just doesn't make any sense. So I discussed this with the woman, and it turns out that she said she didn't have to go to court because she had a notary. And it turns out that she didn't read her documents. And so what can one do for a person in this particular situation? And apparently she'd gone to a couple of lawyers, and those couple of lawyers didn't really want to take her case because they really saw that there was no case. So what's the message here? I'm not here to chastise one individual. I'm here to help instruct people who are consumers, who are honestly trying to have some resolution to their financial problems, which is the reason why there are secondary market facilities for structured settlements. You must read the documents, okay? You have to read the documents, as long and boring as they are. You have to read them. You need to have somebody explain to you your questions. Don't be so blinded. If you're in a bad situation, you're desperate for cash, it's very easy when you're going through that particular passage or journey to lose sight of how you're going to get to the other side, okay? And some of the important elements of the navigation to get to the other side. You just want to jump over the top, but you really need to deal with some of the little twists and turns along the way. It's important to read your documents, and it's also important to work with people who are qualified. Somebody who is sitting at a call center is more than likely not qualified to give you financial advice. Perhaps they are, but what you need to do is to check their credentials. Ask, what credentials do you have? Are you a chartered life underwriter? Are you a certified financial planner? Are you a lawyer? What credentials, academic credentials, do you have, or professional certifications that do you have that can make me feel comfortable about the advice that you're giving? This is extremely important. There are many qualified people who are in the structured settlement secondary market. There are people in the primary market who provide independent financial advice to people who are considering selling structured settlements, and sometimes that advice is maybe there's some alternatives for you other than selling your structured settlement payments. So think about it. If you see an ad on TV, search the internet, look at the qualifications, look for stories about that particular company. If there's any people who've had bad experiences, legitimate bad experiences, don't go to consumer complaint sites when it comes to financial services. A lot of the stuff is made up from what we can see. It's much more credible for you to go to a regulatory organization if you're dealing with somebody with securities. There's FINRA broker check, there's the SEC's financial advisor check. If you're dealing with somebody who's a licensed insurance agent, you can go to your local state insurance department. You can go to the Secretary of State in your state to see whether or not that business is even registered to do business in your state. And this is something that you're going to find when you go and seek information about selling your structured settlement. There are a lot of people out there who are not registered to do business in your state, and yet they're soliciting you. And one of the things that I've found out of research over the last year, there's 1 or 2 companies where they're actually using aliases or fake names. I mean, can you imagine somebody's actually soliciting somebody to sell their structured settlement payments using a fake name or an alias? You don't even know who you're dealing with. They could be in Timbuktu for all you know. They may not be in the location that they purportedly are. There are websites out there that either don't have phone numbers or don't have legitimate addresses. There's at least 2 companies that we know, or 2 websites that are soliciting consumers where they faked academic credentials. And we've got it, if you read up, you can read about it on our blog. Faked academic credentials. In 2 cases, there were 2 companies where they said that the individuals fake names went to Yale. And we checked it out. There was no such person at Yale. There was no such person at UCLA. There was no such person at Florida State. Okay, now, unfortunately, there is virtually no regulation regarding the solicitation practices of these companies. So the best thing that you can do is do the things that I'm recommending to you. Check the Secretary of State, check FINRA broker check, check the SECs if you're dealing with somebody who has a securities license, check your insurance department, check the CPA, if it's a CPA, check the Board of Standards, law they admitted to the bar in your state. These are very important things. I hope this has been helpful. My name is John Derer. Again, if you have any questions about this, feel free to call me toll free, 888-325-8640. I'd be happy to write about your story if you'd like, or just answer your questions and have a confidential conversation. Thank you again, John Derer. Have a great day.